Hello and welcome to Bible FPL. I feel like it's been a while since I last recorded a video, but here we are. And I thought I'd start with the Game Week 31 free hit draft because my Bible FPL team is looking increasingly mudded with each kind of European game that gets played and with each bit of press conference news that comes out. So I'm very much thinking about the free hit this game week. So I thought I'd put together a draft for a bit of food for thought if any of you are in a similar position. I think in an ideal world, we hold the free hit this week. But I think if you're in a position like mine with your team, there's a world where a free hit's there for a reason, right? When you need to play it, sometimes you've got to play it. And this is a week where there's four teams blanking. It's not a terrible opportunity to play it. So yeah, here's the team I put together. So I've got Martinez in goal. I feel like Villa home to West Ham is a decent fixture defensively. Villa can be solid at home. West Ham, aren't the greatest team in the Prem, albeit they've been doing a bit better lately. I just feel like, yeah, there's not loads of like standout keepers this week, and I thought Martinez does the job. Into the defence, then we've got Malik Chow for Newcastle. So they did just concede seven to Barca, but his projected points this week on FPL.team are the second highest for the week, and I think that's because he's very likely to get DEFCON in a cagey game. Decent chance of a clean sheet and bonus. He's got goal for it. Um, Although he's had a few bad performances lately. I don't know. I think he could be a good one at home to Sunderland in a game I expect to be cagey and I expect to maybe be low scoring or maybe Newcastle nick a 1-0 win and get some redemption for the Voltemade own goal at Sunderland earlier in the season. So he's in there. Double Fulham home to Burnley, I think makes a lot of sense. Anderson's great for DEFCON, as we all know. And then Robinson back from injury, like he's a very attacking fullback on his day, and I just feel like that's a lovely differential there if you're on free hit with some potential attacking upside combined with hopefully the clean sheet. Midfield wise, so I've gone for Morgan Rogers. I feel like again West Ham's a decent fixture, 90-minute man. He's the sort that is always got a chance of returns for that Villa team. So it's nice to have a bit of Villa attacking coverage. Palmer on pens, decent fixture against Everton. He looked all right, I think, in the Champions League and or at least I think against Newcastle last week. Yeah, I think he's a good one to have in the team. Bruno Fernandes, what more do I need to say? He's smashing at the moment. Bournemouth's a lovely fixture. They're a team that are conceding goals a lot this season. I know they've done better recently defensively, but I still don't back them to keep a clean sheet against United, who are on fire. And he'll be the captaincy for this team. Gibbs White, again, I just think, on penalties against Spurs, the Spurs team have been very shaky this season. It looks like he's got a rest tonight in Europe. So Gibbs White could be a cheeky one as a differential that, yeah, again, has good expected points this game week. And then Harry Wilson, again, home to Burnley, lovely fixture, key player in that team. He's having a really good season. I think he's a no-brainer to have in your free hit. And then up top's difficult because there's a lot of, I don't think there's loads of great strikers, basically. So I've gone for these two. I've gone for Ekatike. I feel like it'd be nice to have some Liverpool coverage. He looked very good in the Champions League against a Brighton team who was a fan of Brighton. I know we're very hit and miss, and on our day, or on a bad day, like Liverpool could really do us over. So I think it's nice to have some Liverpool attacking coverage. I think he only played like 60 odd minutes in the Champions League, so you'd expect him to start this one. And then I've paired him with Calvert-Lewin. I've just got this feeling like 8 o'clock kickoff on the Saturday, under the lights at Ellen Road, a rocking Ellen Road. Maybe DCL gets redemption for his missed penalty last week, and puts a goal or two past Brentford. Obviously, there's Thiago for Brentford if you wanted a penalty, another penalty taker for a player that's done even better than Calvert-Lewin this season. I just thought Leeds at home, there is something about home ties sometimes. So I thought I'd back DCL in the team with this. But, you could probably have Thiago first bench in this team. I've just put together the starting lineup because that's the main thing that matters with a free hit. But Ollie Watkins, if you wanted a punt, like he's another one. He got rested tonight in Europe, come off the bench. I haven't quite seen the update of the score, but he's another one you could punt on. Even like a Seshko for United, I don't hate as a wild punt. Like he keeps scoring off the bench lately. He's due a start. And Bournemouth for a team, if I could, I'd love to have triple, United attack against. I think there's a slim chance of Burma gets benched this week. I think, Ahmad could play right, Seshko could play up top, and Burma's not done brilliantly recently. I just think, I don't know, there's no one in that United team other than Bruno that I'm like overly excited about right now, which is why this team just has him. And I feel like there's a lot of the other players I've got in this team, I think are all very solid assets. So food for thought there with the free hit draft. I do think it looks pretty decent. And what I also like about it is I've got a player from every single fixture this week, which, if you're following football over the weekend, I just quite like it when every single game there's at least something you can follow and have some interest in. So there's a sort of cheeky bonus to the draft I've put together there. Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you have any thoughts about free hit and any players I'm missing that you're like, why on earth are they not there, James? Or yeah, other thoughts. Always interested to hear. I think Gordon's not in there because I just think, like I said, I think it's me a cagey game, and therefore, I don't know. Sunderland may defend well. He's quite a feisty player, so in a derby game, you never know. He could get a booking or even a red if he gets really angry. So that's part of the reason he's not in there. But I still think he's a good shout like on penalties and stuff. He could be a good pick if you're feeling him. Could be a good punt, and even a Bowen away to maybe a weary Aston Villa. There's a lot of players you could pick this week if you're on free hit. In terms of the teams, we might as well crack into them so I don't spend too long on the free hit draft. I'll try and whip through these. So the main team actually did really well this week, 66 points. I was delighted because my gut was Captain Gabriel. Not many people did that. I went with it. It paid off. Um, Soberslai was a lovely return. It was nice to get some points from him, particularly since I went, him over Salah a few weeks ago, and it has actually paid off. Bassi, this was nice because I basically took a hit to get Bassi in to have him first bench in case Munoz didn't play, and it also meant I've got him for the blank game week this game week. So that was lovely that he came in for a 9 pointer. Thiago goal was nice. Bruno, obviously, a lot of people captained. But it was still nice to get some points for him. So yeah, I was pretty pleased with how the team did, and it's in pretty decent shape this game week. The plan is to basically do Zubimendi up to Harry Wilson of Fulham and play him in midfield, bench Haaland, and have an 11 out. Although Mukiele, there's doubts around. I'm just not sure if it's worth me taking a hit if he's ruled out for a defensive player. I'm hoping there's like a chance he starts, and worst case maybe he gets a cameo off the bench for like for a 1 pointer, and I just accept if I can get 11 players out this game week with this team without taking hits, I think I'd take it. In terms of the Bible team, so the one that's still 45k in the world, we're starting to drop a little bit in the rankings, but we've got all of our chips in the locker unless we play the free hit this week, obviously. It got 43 points this game week. It wasn't the finest week for this team. There's not loads to report really. Like Allison 4 pointer was kind of something you had to celebrate a little bit. Gabriel 9, most people own him, and Bruno 10, most people own him. Who did I captain? Oh, Sally, yeah, that was hugely disappointing, wasn't it? We thought he was going to spank Spurs, and he ended up getting benched. And then Thiago, a lot of people own him, so there wasn't really loads to report. 45k though, we're only a couple of good game weeks away from slapping back up the rankings, so we're still in a decent place for this team. We can't complain. And the most important thing with these videos I always say is I do a short Bible talk. Now, I try and keep it as short as I can. I always do that to bring some deeper meaning to these videos. As a Christian myself, I've found, I love things like fantasy football, but without God, these things would, I don't know, feel very meaningless to me in ways where, I don't know, when they go badly, and I sometimes attach too much meaning to fantasy football. I know that there's stuff more important to fantasy football in life, and faith is a big part of that for me. So I always try and bring some deep meaning to these videos to sometimes try and complement the fancy stuff a little bit, and I will try and make it semi-relevant to that today again as well. Now, what we do is we always go off one of the goal times. Now, we didn't have many goal times to go off, or assist times, or return times, but Igor Thiago scored a goal for Brentford. Now, he's a bit of a rogue one. He's an Old Testament option. Last letter of his name is O. First letter of his name is T. OT, Old Testament. That's always been what I've said for him. And basically, we can read from any book in the Old Testament off the back of Thiago's return in the 37th minute. And we're going to go for the book of Ezekiel, and then we're going to go for Ezekiel chapter 37 in relation to the goal time, in relation to sort of the player's name. And it's all about this passage called the Valley of the Dry Bones, okay? Now, this passage is all about how basically God's people, the people of Israel, were feeling quite distant from God. They were feeling a bit hopeless. They were struggling, and essentially they were spiritually dry. They were feeling very spiritually dry, hopeless, distant from the Lord, etc. And there was a prophecy that came to them, came for them from the Lord, which said, "I'll make breath enter you, and I'll make you come to life." And essentially, God was saying to these guys, "Look, I'm going to bring you spiritual life where you're feeling dry and you're feeling distant from me and you're feeling hopeless. I'm going to give you spiritual life and spiritual hope and renew the kind of hopelessness that you're currently feeling and the spiritual dryness and the distance from me that you're feeling. I'm going to help you to feel connected again and alive again in your faith and in hope in what God's going to do in their lives." And I suppose the linkage to FPL is, I think when you get overly invested in FPL, it is a game that can make you feel very spiritually dry, like very just emotionally flat, very distant from, I suppose, like joy in day-to-day life things that you should be feeling more happy about. Like when you invest too much sort of time and thought into FPL, it can really get you down, and I think it can make you feel, spiritually dry if we're looking at it on a spiritual level as well. And all sorts of things in life can do that, like addictions. You may even have a fancy football addiction. You may have addiction to other things. You may struggle with things in life that you put too much time on. You may be, watching things online that perhaps aren't very good for you to watch, and actually those things are all leaving you just feeling a bit spiritually dry. You're searching for joy and you're searching for moments of happiness in different areas, and they're constantly letting you down, and you are just like, James, yeah, I do just feel a little bit spiritually dry in life. I feel a bit flat. I feel a bit like surely there's more to life than this. And I want to encourage you, if that's you, like there is genuine hope in God that you can find spiritual life in Him. When you put your faith in Jesus, the Holy Spirit comes and lives in you and fills you and gives you spiritual life where you can feel joy in the Lord. You can feel peace. You can feel this supernatural, love and peace and joy from God that only He can bring in a way that is deeper and more spiritually kind of like whole, if you like, and doesn't leave you feeling empty. It leaves you feeling full and satisfied and spiritually satisfied, in relation to the passage that nothing else in this world can offer. Even like the greatest game week on FPL, you can have like moments of joy with that. And like obviously I love playing this game and I really enjoy those moments where you get big scores. But even in those big scores, you're not going to feel the level of like spiritual fulfillment as you can in God. And equally, like those moments come and go. Like you get them for a bit, and then the next game week comes around and it goes terribly, and you're back to square one again, feeling terrible. Whereas with the Lord, he's never going to leave you feeling empty and dry. Like every time I spend time with God, if I put on my worship music or read my Bible or pray to him or spend time in his presence, like I feel spiritually alive. I feel spiritually fulfilled. And the things of this world and terrible game weeks and FPL just can fall to the wayside because you know that, yeah, there's more important things in life. And yeah, there's spiritual life in God that is far greater than anything else in this world. So that's the encouragement I'd leave you with. Please comment if you have any questions about that. I always love to help you on your spiritual journeys. And like I said, I'm not saying fantasy football was a bad thing to do. I play it, I love it, but you can have the Lord, in your life in a way that, yeah, makes everything else almost better, really, because it puts things into perspective even more, and you don't put as much pressure and weight on these things, such as fancy football, to give you happiness. Because, yeah, ultimately they will just leave you feeling short. God wants you to feel whole. So, yeah, that's the encouragement. In terms of how the Bible team's looking this week, like I said, it's looking decimated. It was already looking a bit struggling, and then Chalobah got a terrible injury. I mean, I actually genuinely think, it was God's grace that helped him to not break his ankle. If you've seen the picture of the way his ankle was like looking like it was going to snap, it's miraculous that he didn't break his ankle. He's a strong Christian lad, so I genuinely have faith, that was the Lord's hand over him, to be honest, to not make it any worse than it could have been. That's a bonus. That's a bonus spiritual point I thought I'd mention. But yeah, anyway, he's out injured, so I don't have him. I've got loads of blankers. Salah's just asked for a sub off in the Champions League, so I don't even know if he's going to play. I'll have to see what Slot says, but I can imagine Slot will say something like, he felt something. I haven't seen him in training yet today. We'll have to assess and see how he is today. So I'm not banking on anything concrete for him. Lucas Perez got benched in his last game, so he's not guaranteed to start. So we're clutching at straws basically, and I've got this decision to make where do I play the free hit and I get out a really solid 11 this week, or do I think to myself, look, maybe I'll take a hit, make a couple of transfers, leave myself with, I mean, how many players would it be? One, two. So the plan would be I'd bring in Calvert-Lewin in for Mane, so that'd be three. I won't count Salah just yet. Four, five, six, seven with Allison, and then I suppose two halves because of the two doubts. So should we say eight? Eight players. But then I'd also do what's it? Gay down to Malik Chow, I think, or I think Chalobah down to Malik Chow actually to fund Calvert Lewin. And then also I've alluded there in the video. I think he's a good option. He may double later if I end up playing this team through. He's got a reasonable fixture next game week. So actually, that could leave me with nine-ish players. I don't think that's terrible. Maybe to save the free hit, that's not the worst thing in the world. I'll have the captaincy for Bruno Fernandes, who's the best captaincy this week. There's some decent players in there that could return for us. Like, you've got to weigh up, haven't you? Am I going to get more points later in the season by saving my free hit? And I'd say if you're weighing up the same thing, go on a website like FPL.team. I was looking ahead earlier and I was like, okay, my team looks mudded this week, but it'll also potentially be mudded in other weeks as well. So it's just weighing up that risk versus reward. When am I going to need the free hit more? Like, obviously, if I play the free hit this week, I'm probably going to score more points than if I leave this team as it is or take the -4 I'm suggesting. But then am I going to make even more points later in the season if I save the free hit? So I've really got to weigh it up. Like right now, the information in front of me is if I play my free hit this game week, I can improve my score. Later in the season, maybe there isn't as many doubles and blanks with teams going out of Europe, and actually, I won't need my free hit as much later in the season. So I need to weigh it all up and go with my gut, I think, and what I feel most at peace about. But yeah, I'll either do the free hit, similar team I suggested earlier, or I'll do Mane to Calvert-Lewin, Chalobah to Chow, Captain Bruno, and just hope that the 8 to 9 players I have can get us enough points, basically. So yeah, that's the Bible team. And then finally, just to finish, quick as anything, Champions League fantasy football. If you even remotely care less, the team actually did really well this week for the first time, I think, all season. 110 points was beautiful. We're up to 221k in the world, which is actually respectable given I've played this game very rashly this season. I've spun wheels to pick my team. I've done FIFA challenges to pick my team. I've picked a lot of Bible Christian players like I do on the Premier League team where I'm limiting kind of who I can choose and stuff. So to be 200k in the world at this stage of the season is pretty decent. Um, yeah, and I'm playing it more freely at this point because I'm like, okay, I can't, really win the thing, so I might as well just like, you know, play more freely, see how many points I can get without sort of making as many sort of rules behind how I play the Champions League stuff. The Premier League stuff, I'm still going to continue to stick to the Bible ways of playing things. But yeah, if you at all were interested how the Champions League team did, I actually enjoyed Champions League fantasy football this week, which was nice. And it's yeah, slightly less kind of pressure I put on Champions League compared to the Prem. So it's kind of a nice little side hustle, if you like, where I can enjoy it more casually. When it goes wrong, it's not that problematic. Like when Salah missed his penalty and was on -2 as captain, I was like, oh, that's a bit annoying, but I didn't care too much. So it's nice to play a game like that on the side where it's, you can enjoy the points when they come in, but when it goes badly, it's like, well, I'm not that invested anyway. So you can't really go wrong. Anyway, I think we'll leave it there before the video is too long, as I always like to say. But yeah, do comment if you have any questions about the Bible stuff, if you have any questions about the fancy stuff. Again, all your support on the channel is really appreciated. Every view, every like, every comment, like, yeah, it means a lot that, this is reaching at least a few people. Even if like one of you is blessed from this video, like I'm grateful to God. So yeah, we'll leave it on that positive note. But for now, yeah, I hope you enjoy Game Week 31, and I look forward to catching you all on the next one.